You probably have heard of the term Kafkaesque. It is used when bureaucratic systems are a bit overwhelming and senseless to the point where it's a bit nightmarish. The name comes from Franz Kafka. The year was 1883 in the present-day Czech Republic. A baby boy was born to a middle-class family. His father, a hard-working businessman, had worked his way from working class to middle class and had married his wife, who came from a wealthy family and was well educated, and he had big hopes for his son to be like him. Franz, on the other hand, was sickly and wasn't really interested in business. He wanted more to write, which offered him an escape from his anxiety-filled daily existence. He then went to train as a lawyer upon a choice of his father, and then he gets a full-time job at an insurance office where he had to deal with meaningless paperwork daily, which made him pretty miserable. He still writes in the evenings, and a friend of his made him publish 2 of his works, which didn't get much attention. He himself wasn't really satisfied with his writings. In his 40th year, he gets pretty sick with tuberculosis. And before his death, he tells his friend to burn all his works and dies a month before his 41st birthday. His friend, however, ignores this wish and publishes his works, and Franz becomes one of the most acknowledged writers of his time. And still now, a century later, we still use his novels to make sense of our daily lives that we cannot understand or cannot get meaning from. We still continue to relate to his life and his works. The sad thing is that his works stayed in his cupboard, deemed useless for the entirety of his life, and he never really saw the genius of his works, which is also the reality of our times, perhaps. I wonder how many of us gave into the wishes of our families to dedicate our lives to something that is meaningless to us, however, a trend in the society. How many of us just disregard our true beliefs and interests just to fit in with our communities? There's this social experiment that has been done many times where they sit participants in a room, and the task is to identify which line is longer from 3 options. There are 3 cards which include 1 single line each. And this is a very easy task. The participants are adults and usually college students, so they're perfectly capable of identifying what line is longer than another. But the trick is that only one is a real participant, and the rest are paid actors. The researchers are trying to see how susceptible we are to social pressures. And in the first round, everybody chooses the correct line, and then the second, the actors choose the wrong one, and the participant is confused and they still point to the longer line. But with more rounds, the participants lose trust in themselves. They start to think, like maybe I'm wrong, and they choose whatever is the popular choice. This particular experiment is called Asch conformity experiment. You can Google it if you want to see the real videos. There are also so many variations of this particular experiment. Every day we make decisions based on what is popular. Even if we believe something is right, we still change our beliefs to match the popular belief. Even in stores, items labeled most popular are sold out way faster, even if they are more expensive and practically the same. Even in more life-changing decisions, such as where we spend the entire day working or our lives working, or whether or not to marry and who to marry, we decide not from our internal investigations, but from what is more popular in our surroundings. And to some degree, I can understand this. I mean, as humans, we don't really have a very good track record of hearing out or accepting people who don't hold the same beliefs than the popular one. I mean, people have been killed for who they choose to love, not believing in religion, saying, like maybe black people deserve the same rights as everyone, even if slavery is common. Or what do you guys think about, like, maybe if we let our women vote or work and stuff? What? I'm going to prison. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, it makes sense. We've literally deemed people insane or possessed by the devil or witch for saying, this like common belief I feel like doesn't apply to me, even if it's like personal, not like wrong for everybody, but like me personally, I don't think it applies to me. And then we say like, oh my god, a witch, a crazy person. It might seem like we've come a long way, but lots of people have died fighting for things that might seem like common sense, like common acceptance for everyone. Still, we don't like people that are too different or question what the government says, or people that are, like women that are like too loud or too traditional. I hear these days about Kanye West in the media, and just the name, it reminds me to play his music. And I'm always astounded by the genius of it all. Such original and artistic masterpieces. He's really talented. And it makes me realize that maybe how art offers us a place to safely be insane. And he is a great example of doing it really well. The only problem is he just doesn't stop like outside of art. The same thing is so with Franz Kafka. He dealt with the pain of his father's dominance and abuse by writing fiction that told the truth. Even to us in the present day, this is still like 100 years later, it's still our reality. Sometimes it feels like being an artist is the only way to honestly and eloquently express ourselves. But we don't have to be formal artists to start to think for ourselves in our daily lives. We can start by not being afraid to question the common things we do daily if it doesn't feel right. The common belief fallacy, if everyone believes it, it's probably wrong. And we've been, been wronged many times as a society. There are some things that we're fairly sure about at this point, and many things that we are still figuring out as we go. We also need to be able to be open to other people's objections and disagreements, even when it comes to things we believe are true to our core. Sometimes we just don't have the time and energy to explain, and other times, both things can be true. There can be two different truths at the same time. It's okay not to be open to debate at all times and to show people and convince everyone, but nobody should be exiled from society for disagreeing. Even if they're wrong, there should be a safe space for people's opinions to be heard and for them to educate themselves and change their mind. Oh yeah, like I used to believe that, but I read this and that, and then I got this proof, and therefore I changed my mind. That is something we never hear these days. Like, have you heard that? I never heard that. Politicians never say that. People in leadership roles don't say that. Parents don't say that often. And call me insane, but we have to normalize that. Now, that being said, there is also a place there for empathy. We can disagree on ideas or systems, on how to do things, or what we believe, but there are some things that are not up to us to disagree. like somebody else's experience, for example, or identity, or their bodies, We also have people who deny other people's experience just like for the sake of it, for rebellion or conservatism. And this kind of people, you can't really change their minds because they're not disagreeing with an idea. They are fear motivated. Fear of the status quo changing, therefore having less security or identity or community, or having their core belief systems shaken. I'm currently reading this book about why some people tend to be more conservative and others liberal, and this is actually something that I'll talk about in the next episodes for sure. But for this one, what I really want you to take away is to follow your burning fires in your heart, the things that give you meaning, so that your gifts can have the chance to flourish in the world and you don't die with them. Like with the title of this episode, like must do before you die. That's definitely something you must do before you die. If we are used to doing what society says, this can be difficult. It can be really difficult to figure out what we really want to do. And in this case, you can just start with doing things that you enjoy without the fear of judgment, experimenting with lots of things, and figuring out what feels right or what you're good at and what you would like to do. An episode on passion is also coming up. After reading Franz Kafka's short stories, the writer Anna Rice, she wrote this that I really liked. She said, "Don't bend, don't water down, don't try to make logical, don't edit your own soul according to the fashion. Rather, follow your most intense obsessions mercilessly. Only if you do that can you hope to make the reader feel every particle of what you, the writer, have known and feel compelled to share." I've also recently discovered the books of Khalil Gibran. He is a Lebanese poet and he is considered philosopher, but he actually didn't like that title. I wish I could ask him why. And he wrote something that resonated with me on how we can balance our passion with reason so that our passion cannot take us away, For reason, ruling alone is of course confining, and passion, unattended, is a flame that burns to its own destruction. I really liked this. Passion, unattended, is a flame that burns to its own destruction. Therefore, let your soul exalt your reason to the height of passion, that it may sing, and let it direct your passion with reason, that your passion may live through its own daily resurrection, and like the phoenix rise above its own ashes. And with that, I will see you, or you'll hear me next week. I am Nia, and this has been Mas Before You Die.